But yeah, so Article 23, everyone has the right to
It's interesting.
work. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
this is a four
Four
parter.
pointer. Yeah.
So there's 4 points that are connected with Article 23. The first point being everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment, and to just and favorable conditions of work, and to protection against unemployment. Um, Again, hopefully relatively obvious depending on where you live. Um, but even if you don't live in a country that is violating these things, hopefully you realize that around the world, this is not the case, right? Especially things around that idea of just and favorable conditions of work. I think that we should all know that there are some very hazardous jobs out
Yeah.
there that don't necessarily have hazard pay or
Yep.
uh, protections in that sense. Um, and as well, I think the other real important one is the protection against unemployment, right? The
Yeah.
idea of I guess like a welfare state or socialism in that sense, where if you are unemployed, you can you can access unemployment insurance type of
Yeah,
thing.
as we've
Um,
seen, like in the last 15 years, like automation has taken away people, certain jobs away from people, so
mhm.
they have to go back to the drawing board, which is fine. And it's just,
Yeah,
yeah. But again,
but
you don't have to
what
look far to
happens to those
see.
people?
Yeah.
Yeah,
In fact, you can look to the biggest superpower on earth, where most of the people will probably be watching from, to know that if you lose your job, that's can't turn to Uncle Sam really for a dime. If
no, yeah.
so,
Yeah, especially
yeah.
depending on what state you live in,
Heck,
right?
we have
Like,
social welfare state here, and as you know, like we have a friend that's battling with sickness right now, and she
yeah,
still hasn't been approved
yeah,
for her unemployment insurance two
yeah,
months into being out of work. It's
yeah.
like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
crazy.
The stipulations, right? Even like you said, that even when you have the systems in place, the
There's still
stipulations on what is a valid reason for unemployment, right? Even though this,
yeah,
like your example, this is a person who cannot
cannot
work
physically
because
work.
they
Yeah,
are dealing with cancer. Um, yeah, it is crazy that a situation like that can kind of fall through the wayside.
yeah,
It's not like it's just some freeloader. Nevertheless,
yeah.
part two.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That one's a very, very again painted in red.
yeah. Everyone has, or sorry, everyone without any discrimination has the right to equal pay for
For
equal
equal
work.
work.
Hopefully, everyone knows that that
Yeah,
does not happen around the world, both for
yeah.
males and females, because you can be doing the
Heck,
same
a lot of
job in
people
different
watching this
places.
are probably victims of it.
Yeah. Yeah. But obviously the big one is, yeah, when you have discrepancies between gender or yeah, males and females or things like that, right? That's
Yeah,
the obvious one, but I think you could make the argument that just some jobs also around the world are valued differently, right? The idea
yeah.
of being a teacher, for instance. Um, in some countries, like I think in Canada, it's pretty safe to say that that is a very uh, respected in terms of its pay.
It's a
I'm not
well
saying it's the most
secured.
expensive paid, highest paid job,
Yeah, it's
but
a well
it is
secured
paid.
job.
Yeah, it's paid a lot more than it is in some of the states within the United
Yes.
States
Yeah.
that pay it uh, relatively low,
Oh yeah.
all things
Oh
considered.
yeah.
Um, with with the it's only interesting because it's in stark contrast to how much effort it does take to get those jobs in the first place through education and things like
Yeah.
that. But then you're not paid very
Yeah.
well after the
Or
fact.
you don't get the like the security like
Yeah,
you would.
pensions and things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Like you're the pays like you're living at a pretty good, but like you're not going to be able to at
yeah.
50 to like
Totally
retire. Like yeah,
depends on
it's
where you are.
yeah. To your point, it's all there's
Definitely
things to consider
a
on both
spectrum
ends.
on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then the
And
next one
point
kind of
number
goes
three.
back
Yeah.
to the first
Ev-
point again.
yep. Everyone who works has the right to just and favorable remuneration. Oh my god,
I know it's such a wordy
remuneration,
word. Yeah,
remuneration, ensuring for himself and his family an existence worthy of human dignity and supplemented. if necessary, by other means of social protection, right? Like you
Which,
said,
yeah,
very similar to that first point. And
unemployment. Yeah,
hopefully that all makes
we
sense.
saw that with COVID with CERB.
Yeah, yeah, in Canada for
It's
sure.
like,
And I think no
didn't
matter
work
where
as
you are,
well
you
as they
probably saw
wanted
a
it
version of
to, but
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
Part number 4, everyone has the right to form and join trade unions for the protection of his interests. Well, we know that trade unions get busted up all the time,
yes.
both historically and still today.
All the time. Yeah.
Doesn't matter, especially recently, we've seen quite a bit of that stuff, whether it's I don't know, Amazon, Starbucks,
Yeah.
Walmart, like
Well, you see it on both
all
sides.
of
It's like
those
they either
things. Yeah.
become, it's like the quote from Batman. It's like you either die the hero, live
Yeah, live
long
long
enough to
enough.
see yourself
Yeah.
become the villain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the steel workers unions are like busting
Yeah.
heads.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. But it is interesting just again, and I know we'll continue to talk about this, but I do find it interesting that some of these things are so blatantly laid out, but yet we know that there are
yeah,
countries
yeah.
in our world that don't have a single trade union, let
Yeah,
alone
most
like
people, you don't have to look far. If you're old enough,
yeah,
you tune into stuff here and there. It doesn't
exactly.
have to be regularly
Yeah, 100%.
to know that, yeah, a lot of people are represented
Yeah,
fairly through for their work.
exactly. All right.